Thanks and welcome everybody. I hope that by the end of this session you'll feel that this series of tests will enable you to measure attainment and monitor progress over time, that you will think they can assist you and your teachers in the classroom and support you with conversations with learners and parents. So the plan is to give you the thinking behind the series, the reasons why you'd want to use them, and to look at each test in more detail. Finally, to look at the reports that are available for you and how they can support you. So why would you use the progress tests? Well, these are designed for year-on-year use by teachers to monitor, as I say, progress, to measure attainment. And by using them, you will be able to identify the students who will need additional support or extension work, and that if you're using them over time, you'll begin to see patterns and trends. So designed to be used with students from age 5 right through to 14, you've got, as I say, if you use them year on year, you will be able to see those patterns and trends, and also begin to look at how your learners will compare with others of the same age nationally. So the data that you will get, because we have standardised these assessments against 35,000 UK students, you will be given a strong national benchmark for enabling you to track progress, particularly with as we move to life without levels. So if you can look at the strengths and weaknesses of each learner and set targets and personalise learning, you will be achieving what parents and other stakeholders really want to know from any assessment that a student has to undertake. You will also be able to monitor the effectiveness of any of the interventions that you have set in place as a result of the data that you're getting from our reports. So if we look at the progress test in English to begin with, this is now a slightly longer assessment. This is in order to have increased the difficulty to be able to differentiate in an even stronger way and improve the reliability. So we've got increased rigour, therefore, within this assessment. It's actually looking at the national curriculum content that was in the changes that have been put in place, so that we've got the spelling, grammar and punctuation required in terms of the English skills, but in terms of reading comprehension, we've got the narrative and the non-narrative. This is actually available digitally from 7, but you can see that it is already available to you from age 5 right through to 14. Now, all the assessments, both in English, Maths and Science, will have what is called 11T. This is a new assessment that's been added to this series. It's to enable you, if you've got students who are joining you at secondary level, so that you can actually set the targets or begin to understand what they know and what they don't know right at the beginning of them joining you. And it's some sort of security, really, if you think that they may have already sat an assessment at their previous school, so there's no danger of them sitting the same assessment and being too familiar with the test. So this will be available from the end of this month, ready for you to use in September 2015. So if we just look at English from age 5 to 7, as you can see from the cuddly little cat, it's got a Key Stage 1 look and feel. And the reading comprehension questions are embedded in any of the text. So basically, the teacher will be reading the questions to help and support the child through this assessment. It takes approximately 45 to 60 minutes. You can take as long as you need. It can be administered in 2 separate parts, so the children can actually have a break, or you can do it on separate days. As I was saying, the teacher reads the instructions, so it's important that the child feels that they can take as long as they need. And when you move to Progress Test 7, this is actually, when you use it digitally, the learner follows the instructions on the screen. Obviously, by the time you've got Progress Test 8, the students will be reading independently, but again, it's about 60 to 75 minutes. This breaks down into spelling, 10 minutes for spelling. Grammar and punctuation is 10 to 15 minutes, and the reading comprehension section is 40 to 50 minutes. We've already explained a bit about the transition level test. It's the same difficulty level or close to the Progress Test 11, but it's got a more secondary feel about it. So it's the top end of what they would have done at the end of Year 6, but it's designed to be administered, as I say, the first half of the autumn term. So you would then go on to use the Progress Test 12 at the end of their Year 7. Okay, so if we move on to Progress Test Maths, this is differentiated, obviously, according to the age. So in terms of the depth of each of the key content or the process skills, these will be differentiated, as I say, according to the age. So the key content areas in terms of maths will be number, measurement, geometry, statistics, and algebra. Whereas in terms of the key processes, it's the fluency, it's mathematical reasoning, and the problem solving. So you've got here, you can see that it's available from 5 to 11 at the moment, digitally 7 to 11. The progress test in terms of transition will again be available for you at the end of June, ready for the first use September. And as you're not going to need the progress test 12 to 14, that's been delayed currently until spring 2016, with perfect timing for you to access then. So if we just go through the different ones, to some extent give you an idea of some of the images that are available. So the test for the youngest learners obviously comprises questions on number, shape, space and measure. And the teacher will read the questions and answer options aloud, so that reduces the need to read to a minimum. And as I say, the key thing is to be able to go along at the speed the students need, and they should always be encouraged to take as much time as they need. When you get to progress test 8 to 11, it's in 2 parts. So you have the mental maths, which is timed, and it can be read out aloud either by the teacher, or we've provided an audio file that you can download to ensure that the timings are delivered in a fluent way, and that may actually enable or ensure that the tests are always administered in the same standardized way. So in terms of the timings, you can see there how it's broken down. So it would expected to take between 45 to 60 minutes, and then you have your mental maths on top. And obviously at this stage, the learners are expected to be able to read the questions for themselves. Again, the transition level aimed at the same level as progress test maths at 11, so at the end of year 6, but this will be used for you at the start or entry into secondary. And this again, just to show you a bit of an example of what some of the questions are like, and the fact that it's just slightly longer in time, appropriate to the age of those students. So progress test in science, there's no other standardised assessment that is offered currently, apart from, as I say, we're the first to be able to offer this range of levels. So from age 8 through to 14, we are able to say quite securely that we're the ones that can provide this standardised assessment across this range of levels. So when it's at primary level, then it meets the national curriculum and can be delivered in terms of chunks of time across each year in terms of science, but then obviously this new element of working scientifically. And then when it's delivered at secondary level, it is broken down into the different specialist areas of biology, chemistry, and physics. So this is available, as it says, 8 to 14, and we've also got the 11T available from September. So we hope that with all our assessments, you'll take up the offer of some trials, and from September, we would be able to give you trials in this. So I began to say on the last slide that the tests in primary are the national curriculum in yearly chunks. So the test at the end of year 6 is all of the Key Stage 2 curriculum, but the one at the start of the secondary will have different content and will be aimed at the slightly higher end of the ability range in terms of the Key Stage 2 curriculum. With Progress Test Science 13 and 14, these are separate tests that are, as I say, based on all of the Key Stage 3 curriculum. So if you have a 2-year Key Stage 3, then you'd be using the PTS 13, but if you have a 3-year Key Stage 3, then you would be using PTS 14. So it's not designed to be taken at the end of each year as it is in primary. It's for a summary of the whole of the Key Stage 3 curriculum, because can teach the biology, the physics, the chemistry in different orders. So this will support the schools in terms of how you deliver your Key Stage 3 curriculum. The next few slides are basically just examples of the questions that are available at the different levels, just so that you can begin to see the colour, the type of questions in terms of multiple choice, etc. Okay, so what I would like to do now is talk you through the different reports that are available. So it's standard to all the progress tests, English, maths and science. They will all have exactly the same format, in the sense of you will always get a group report for teachers, but you will also get the Excel data, which means that you can manipulate the data available and personalise it within your schools and do extra stuff as and when you want. So there is a new feature within the progress tests in terms of actually having individual student reports for teachers, and also the individual report for parents, which really the information, being able to communicate with parents, being able to give very strong information to parents and communicate about where children are at in terms of their ability, how they compare with other children, and what the child needs to do to get better and how the parent can support them. To some extent, that was one of the drivers for the changes to removing levels. So I think the fact that we've got this individual report that can support you in communicating with parents is an invaluable asset. Obviously, if you work within a group of schools or a chain of schools, to be able to have a cluster report so that you compare trends and patterns over time across your schools, that's a key advantage as well. We also, if you use our cognitive ability test, then there's a free combination report within CAT4, which will enable you to look at how the progress test maths standard age score will compare with their quantitative score within CAT4, and the same with English against their verbal score. So you can begin to see that the students are not only making progress, but they are in line with what their indicated scores should be. Now, at this stage, I think it's important to just make sure that everyone understands what I mean when I talk about standard age scores, because, as I said early on in the presentation, these are standardised assessments, standardised on a sample of 35,000 students. So if you have a standard age score of 100, you are basically the same as 50% of those students that were within that sample. So if you generally view a score of 90 to 110 as being an average range of ability, then you can see how your students compare against this sample that we have based our assessments on. We also use and provide you with stay9 scores. And stay9s are basically, with the word 9 in it, is an indication. It's chopping up or clumping together standard age scores into 9 different sections. And so a stay9 of 1 to 3 would put you below average, a stay9 4, 5 and 6 average, and 7, 8 and 9 above average. And I think increasingly schools are beginning to realise that stay9s are a very effective way of being able to communicate where a child is at, especially when talking to parents. It means that interpretation, small changes in standard age score, so if there's an improvement, say from 90 to 95, not particularly significant, then or a drop from 90 to 85, it would enable parents to see, well, actually, my child is still within a stay9, say, of 4, and therefore they are still on track, they are still where they're supposed to be. So it enables you to not overinterpret slight changes to standard age scores. On here, it says percentile ranking, but you sometimes see national percentile ranking, and it's basically saying that students who are in a stay9 of 9 or a score of 130, they're basically in the top 4% of the country in terms of this sample for this assessment. Okay, so and it's important to go through that because when we look at examples of the report, I want you to be able to get a feel for what a standard age score would mean and the stay9s that are mentioned on this report. So I'm unable to demonstrate very clearly with a pointer at this stage. So if you can just read along the top of this table, obviously identifying the student and their group their age when they had this assessment administered, the number of questions that were involved, and you have, as you can see there, the standard age score. The confidence band means that if Tom, on the top line, if Tom sat this assessment on another occasion, you could feel confident that his score would be within the range of that line that's on there. The stay 9, in Tom's instance, a stay 9 of 2, so he is below average on this assessment. And in terms of his national percentile ranking, he's in the bottom 11%. And his group rank, he is ranked 23rd equal. We've retained levels in the short term because teachers have said that's what they want as they make the transition to other systems. And we've obviously got in there the progress category, so you can see that Tom is below average. Other things that you can get out of the report, you can have analysis by gender. You depend, obviously, special education needs as well. Depending on how much data you input, there will be more information that you, particularly through the Excel report, that you can filter and produce other reports depending on what sort of priorities there are within your school and the areas of focus that you want to look at. You begin to get breakdown for the whole group on how they've compared against the national average. So the red line or the pink line on there is actually how this group has compared to the national average. So anything above that pink line is good. So overall, you would say that this group is probably slightly better, marginally better than the national average, particularly to the right-hand side, very strong in that area. And when you want to look at it in more detail to see exactly what it was, so in terms of the question category, whether it's mathematical reasoning or if it's fluency and conceptual understanding, you can begin to see as a group or as a school where you're performing against this national sample and begin to identify where there is weakness in the teaching of a particular aspect or the children's understanding of a particular aspect so that you can work to improve over time. It also gives you the names of the students and some strategies for students that fall within the low, the medium and the high stay 9s. So it would, for example, getting pupils to record their ideas and discuss their thinking out loud helps the teacher to see their thought process, etc. So little strategies to help having identified where strengths and weaknesses are. As we mentioned, being able to demonstrate year-on-year progress, you will have it visually here so that the pink and the blue defining the boys and the girls, anything in the greeny shaded area means that they're making above average progress. You can see the majority of the group is making average progress, but you've got a couple of students that have just slipped down into below average progress. And then you get a breakdown student by student over having used it, say, in year 5 when they first assessed, and then their score in year 6, and you can see if they've made above average or below average, etc. progress. So we get an individual report for teachers on each child, and this, I think, is particularly key for all of us in, as we move forward with supporting and trying to actually improve standards across all these core subjects. So to be able to look at exactly which curriculum content category a child was either struggling with or, in this case, excelling with is particularly powerful. again, you get implications for teaching and learning. So to be able to, in this instance, support Rebecca, so it says Rebecca is secure in performing basic mental calculations, but it's about her being able to explain workings to another pupil so that any misconceptions she may have can be highlighted, etc. So you're getting these support. I think this is my favourite bit, the report for parents, as was mentioned at the start, as a chair of governors and as a parent myself, to have been able to have a report on how I, as a parent, can actually support my child, to know exactly what they're good at, where they need to improve, and what I can do to help with that. Very, very powerful. And as I say, the fact it says here, help Tom with maths by asking school to see schoolwork and talking about it, etc. Just really, really useful. But again, ties in with the government agenda within the UK in terms of how we communicate. So there is lots of support available for you. We've got an at-a-glance guide for each of the tests at all levels. This replaces any teacher's guides, so they're built in. You don't have to buy anything extra. This is all built in. Similar follow-up webinars will be available, fully detailed website. But I think the key thing in terms of support is that you take up the opportunity to do some trials of any of these assessments, and we can then see how the trials go, talk them through with you, and obviously enable you in the future to use this hopefully by the end of the next academic year. So just finally, I hope that you do feel that this series of tests can enable you to measure attainment, monitor progress over time, and that you do actually think that they can assist your teachers and the teaching in the classroom, and support you with conversations with learners, parents, and other key stakeholders.